summer, 10 is a winter 9. How to art. Welcome to How to Art, the podcast for dream chasers and people wanting to make some sort of creative pursuit a little bigger part of their lives. Maybe that's drawing, maybe that's singing, maybe that's peeing snow designs as the winter comes. Who knows?
But it is not genocide, remember that.
It's not that. And now we're going to go solid intro. Let's go ahead now and jump into, we're in episode 3. And we've got a couple things going on today, and a special thing, which is we have an interview with a videographer, photographer, friend of ours named Adam, or Adam Flambo on Instagram. And I'm going to throw you guys over to that now, which we recorded the other day, and then we'll continue here talking about music. Let's get started then. So I am here today with Adam Flambo. Where's the name come from? Let people know a little bit about how you came to be the creative persona you are now, and who you are, what you do.
Yeah, my name is Adam, but my creative name is Flambo.
Oh.
I picked that name. I like this idea of like picking your own name. You know, when you're. I think all artists, you know, strive for making like their own, building their own self, you know, with what they want to like, you know, show to the world, and what ideas they want to cultivate, you know. So I think it's, for me, it's important to have like an own name and not just go with like Adam Eskilsson, which is my like Swedish.
So you wanted to create something from scratch that...
Yeah, like, and Flambo, it came from like flamboyant, and that whole thing. I was like just messing around with friends, like joking about me being flamboyant, because I always been a guy that's paid attention to, you know, like aesthetics and keeping everything like, like shiny and good looking, you know. So yeah, that name came natural to me, like Flambo. Now I like it because it like puts like, now it's like catalyst. It's like empowering that side of me, like to be a bit
like fully embrace it.
Is it called mundane? No, mundane is like average.
Boring.
Yeah. I mean, to be a bit, you know, spicy, and like, you know, put out edgy content without feeling like, oh, it's too hipster or whatever. You know? Yeah.
You kind of you're creating that brand and that style.
Yeah.
Anyways,
like,
you give yourself acceptance.
Yeah.
And that brand, what have you been creating, outputting? What do you do exactly? I know, but they don't know.
At the moment, I'm doing photography and videography.
Yeah.
Not like videography, more like cinematography. It's
okay.
With a like cinematic touch to it. That's what I'm doing now. I come from a music background.
Yes, this I know. Are you still, so for some context, when Adam and I first met and we were hanging out, you were much more engaged in music and producing music and creating some things, even going into soundtracks a little bit. You were just kind of getting started, or even before, where you really like picked up a professional camera and started doing that stuff. What was one of the reasons that you maybe changed over a focus from music to more visuals now, and you're doing videos and pictures?
That's a good question. I think for me, music, I've been like all over the place with music. I've been in a reggae band. I've been when I was like 15 to 18, I had like a rock phase when I was like only in my room, like strumming out power chords, and, you know, want to be like AC/DC guy. And then when I was like in my early 20s, I wanted to be in the club scene of Stockholm, like doing house DJ, like techno DJ, but that thing was like not so what's it called, like congruent to me. And you know, after a while I was like, yeah, I really love music and I like listening to it and creating it, but I felt like to move in to make that professionally maybe wasn't gonna be my thing at this moment, because I felt like I'm all over the place, you know. And I understood. I've really since a young age understood that you have to like really, you have to be versatile, sure, but to work as a music artist, you have to be like have a niche. You have to have a specific crowd, because if you go out of that niche, you lose your like core followers, you know. And I feel with the visuals, I can. Well, one thing I can with the visuals, I can provide value much more to other people. Like, sure, they can love my music, but with visuals, like it's about them, you know. It's like 100% about them. When I do music, maybe they can relate to it. But when I do like video for someone, it's like 100% there about them, you know. So it's easier to turn that into money as well, because they have to have me, you know. In music, they can like take this artist instead, or like let's listen to this music instead, and you know, with ranking on sites and everything. But with video, it's like, oh yeah, I have to have this photographer, because without him, it's not gonna be anything.
Alert going off on Twitch. Sorry. turn the speakers off, but not the headphones. I'm giving your mic just a little boost here. I want to try and sit just a little closer to it. That's okay. All right. Anywho, back at it right now. So, are you still? I noticed since you talked about having a lot of kind of cinematic elements in the videos you make.
Yeah.
And I've seen them on. If you guys, it's at Adam_Flambo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. On Instagram, so you guys can see what he's up to. And IGTV, you have some longer form things there. But one thing I've noticed, I see the live chat, Petra soundtrack on point. Yeah, sorry for the alerts going off. One thing I've noticed, you do still have music in them, like, you know, to set the mood for a clip or a different montage. Are you making the music that you? Are you still making the music that's used as, like, you know, background for your videos that are documenting some of the things you've done recently? Or do you get that music from other places?
Sometimes from other places, but a lot of content has original sounds of myself. That's true. Like that's a good one, because that's how I've transitioned into video, but I'm like still like a full-on artist. But it's just like I've like an artist now. I've accepted it to be. I'm like fluent. Like I'm between visuals and sounds, and like I don't use my voice, but maybe I do like poetry or something in the future. Like I keep it like in all.
Because I noticed that making the music has been a little bit of a bridge between what you were focusing on before and what you're focusing on now, and that even when you just got started and you were making some videos, some of the first videos were kind of cinematic, not music videos, but like kind of mini music videos of like clips where you would show yourself making something, recording something in the bedroom, making a beat or something, and you would make a video out of that. I think there were some early things like that you were making, so I can see it being kind of a connection.
Documenting the process.
Yeah,
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Exactly. Yeah, the Gary V method. Speaking of say the more entrepreneurship side of this, I want we kind of have a little bit of context about who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah.
As far as, but main focus making visuals right now. One thing I wanted to ask to make this kind of like useful for a lot of people and people who are making different kinds of arts. First of all, right now, what are you doing in like an average week as far as your distribution of how much you're creating things specifically for social media, how much you're out with a client or a collaborator that you're doing a project with? What does that look like? What does a week look like for spending your time?
Well, first of all, most weeks I work 9 to 5. in, I think it's called daycare. Where you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or I like sometimes I'm a substitute teacher and sometimes it's daycare.
Mm.
But anyway, I have a day job.
Yeah.
That's outside of creative space. 9 to 5. And when I get home from that work, I immediately go into like editing of my Instagram, layout, or editing video for like 1 hour, 2 hours every day. And then I go to sleep. And that's my like weekdays. And on even Saturday and Sunday, that's like my free time. I go to sauna, hit a workout or something, and I keep that space always loose, and like catch up with friends maybe one day, and try like. It's been so many things. Like it's often like I go to events just to like see, catch up with other people in the business, or maybe like hit up a model and do like a shoot or something. I was thinking.
Speaking of hitting people up, slide in the DMs on Instagram. I know for you, you've gotten to do a couple of trips this year. So you've been in, I know, New York and Tokyo, and were you in London as well? Or Berlin, okay. And how did those come about? Because I know you do a lot of networking on Instagram. Speaking of getting in contact with people, what's your kind of, maybe for people who might want to, whether they're people doing visuals, they're people making music, what has been your kind of strategy for connecting with people, how you start a relationship, how you reach out to make some of these opportunities happen? And then tell us about the trips that you've taken as well and how those have come together.
I'm just trying to think of, I started my Instagram like 1 year ago, so it's pretty recent. So I remember how it was in the beginning. And it was like, I understood two things. Like, one, provide value. Like the typical like Gary Vaynerchuk, provide value.
Meaning, for people listening as well, if you're maybe not in that sphere, providing something that's valuable to other people looking at it, not just self-serving, right?
Yeah. Provide value for other people, and you will get good things. Another thing is like pumping out content at a good rate, like once a day, twice a day, or whatever. So I did. That's how I got into this thing of doing my grid design on Instagram.
If you guys haven't seen on his Instagram, so there's a layout that spreads across all the different posts where the different images flow into each other. That's cool to check out.
And that gave me, and that's a good one. It's a good description.
When we started out, Adam reached out about the grid because I was doing something much less involved or similar on.
That's true. This guy was
on my Instagram.
Initiated it all.
But now you've taken it to the next level. It's really cool what he's doing.
But in that way, I could like, for me, it's like I don't want to have writer's block at any time. So. When I do this grid thing, I can like map out pictures in like different ways and don't feel like, because on Instagram it's like you have one picture you put up and the other picture gotta mesh good with that picture and you get like, oh shit, this one's so good and this one is so good, but they don't mesh together. But if you do the grid thing, then you can like tilt them a bit and you can do like some effects to it and you can like finesse it,
blend them together
in different ways.
Go.
So that's another thing. Like I knew that, one, provide value for other people, and I will get that back. 2, consistency of content, and I rode with that for like a half year, and then I started to people like see my content, and of course I've done some like in real life work. When I went to New York with this guy named David, I did some free work for him before that, like one day, and we talked, and then I just saw his Instagram like a couple of months later. He was in New York. He's there often, and I was like, oh, cool, rooftop.
Is he a photographer or a model, or what does he do?
He's a model.
Okay.
And I was like, cool, rooftop, and he was like, yeah, come here, man, let's do something. And and that way it was, because
And was that paid for? How did you pay for the trip? How was that funded?
I paid for the flight there,
Mhm.
but he paid for the staying and the like food and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
So
really
look at that,
cool.
room and board paid for on an artistic trip to New York.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And those things.
Mm.
I started to think. Yes, but I think all 3 trips have been like different ways of going, but I think they're all root down to people seeing me putting time into my Instagram.
I wanted to go back to what you mentioned as well, just to reiterate for people listening. You mentioned as well a good like half a year of consistent or more of consistent content and creating and doing these things before any of this happened as well.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to think about, because it's very easy, especially on social, where like everyone's, how do I grow on Instagram? How do I do this? Like where people maybe expect things in not hyper realistic time frames, or they're not going to put in the effort for a long enough time period to see those kind of returns, or the opportunity to. But that's important. What you're talking about is people seeing that consistency and some work ethic, and it shows them something if you reach out, or they end up reaching out to you, that you have some follow through, and it's actually something you want to be creating and engaging with, not just kind of a quick thing to try and get popular.
Yeah. And one thing for me personally, and I think a lot of people need to work on this part, especially nowadays when like the instant gratification and comfort life of internet and like society in general, and is that when people like give you something, like give you an offer, like, oh, come here and do this, like take that offer like instantly. Don't be like, I will oh, that's cool, like, because I remember me in the past,
at some point we'll do it.
I think actually I've had these kind of offers earlier in my life, but it's now I have the mindset to like execute on these things,
grip them right away.
Because back in the days I was like
it's extremely common.
Now I started to see like the other thing, when I like provide maybe some like opportunities for other people in my business, like to help to let them come with me on like certain things,
like on a shoot
or like just help them out in general, and they're like they can't see the value, or like they somehow like fuck it up for themselves, like they like, oh yeah, I have this or this, but I'm like, but prioritize, like,
exactly.
So you gotta like tweak your mindset a bit about.
I think that's very common for people listening who do music. We all know as well, like collaborations of that drag on for a very long time. Of I'd like to do that someday. We'll do it. This week I'll have time. By the end of the week, this sometime next month I'm free. Blah blah blah, and those kind of people don't call them excuses for themselves, but it's what they are, as excuses for not prioritizing something. And each time you do that, you miss opportunities, you miss things. So I think that's a good thing to think about, you guys. If when you have an opportunity, don't that's not the time to dick around. That's the time to take advantage of it, and don't make someone who is offering you something, don't make it harder for them to do it. You're the one that needs to move things around, figure out how you're going to make it happen, not keep asking them to reschedule or redo different things. I had here some things. I know Instagram is the platform you use the most. Are there any other places you consistently post or create content for that have been useful to you, or has it really all been through Instagram?
I started out before I even had an Instagram. I started out on YouTube. And I was just trying out the platform, Like I knew like you have to shoot out videos and be like not so satisfied with them. So I did like 30 videos this spring.
Mm.
With like this was weird. It was like some cinematic vlog thing. It was like all over the place with the concepts. So and those episodes are actually out there still. So
Yeah.
if you want to check them out, it's on Flamboyant FM on YouTube. It's like really weird clips.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking I'm gonna get back into YouTube. But now Instagram is like I love Instagram.
Yeah.
Like
I really enjoy it too.
even if even for video, it's like.
Mm.
I'm thinking I'm gonna go like video on Instagram as well. Like,
yeah.
Even though it's like not that big, good quality is so like. That's where I'm spending my time. Like I'm starting to like stop looking at YouTube on computer.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like on phone all the time. So. But I want to get back into YouTube as well. Like, but I don't know. Instagram is really strong right now.
I mean, which is funny because Instagram is inherently such a visual platform, since it's images. But even with that being the case, it's still far and away my favorite and most useful and effective for music as well.
Yeah.
Just networking in general, it's where everyone is right now.
Yeah.
It's become very commonplace to have your direct messages on Instagram basically replace your email inbox in a lot of contexts.
Yeah.
And I think people not taking advantage or maybe making it a little harder on themselves than they need to be.
Yeah.
One of the things as well that is difficult about that I think people really need to get over. I know a lot of people in music or artists in general who they have a very sort of perfectionist and idealistic outlook on how we should communicate with each other, and the social media is ruining this, etc., etc. Or I don't like Instagram, I don't fuck with that, I'm not around it. Sometimes it's not. You want to be comfortable on the platforms you're making stuff for, but I think a lot of people miss opportunities by not taking advantage or not getting over those hang-ups. I know people who create music who completely neglect Instagram, let alone other platforms.
Yeah.
And they're hanging on to this idealistic thing of they're not that into social media is really hurting them. I know a lot of people who are quite talented and no one hears their stuff because they won't put in the legwork outside of it and they won't get on those platforms. So if you're listening and you are creating something and you're not really active, get active. On Instagram, be posting. I would post at least something every day, more if you can. Use hashtags. Genuinely engage with other people, right? It's not really that useful to leave the 100 fire fam comment on a bunch of random shit that you didn't actually listen to or care about.
Yeah.
But if you take some time to look through and find someone who you actually like something they're doing and leave something relevant and thoughtful, you can start relationships that way.
Yeah.
You've done some paid work as well, like some club photography and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that, or do you do some of that still to make money on the side? Or
I've done like this summer I did club photography like every weekend.
Yeah.
But now I've done like a couple of gigs this autumn, winter. I'm gonna do maybe one like a gig here in Stockholm on 25th this month.
On Christmas?
Yeah, on Christmas. Christmas Day.
Yeah,
in Sweden.
the 24th is Yule when it's really celebrated here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the US, for people listening other places as well, and on Christmas Day.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing that still, and yeah, it's fun. That's a good way to network as a photographer.
I was gonna ask that as well. You mentioned going to events already, but also like taking these kind of things, even if they're not the main creative output you're necessarily concerned with, there's still good opportunities in other ways, right?
Yeah, it keeps me inspired. It's like when I'm talking about with my dad about my future and what I'm gonna do, and it's like he said all the time, like, just you gotta just, keep it inspiring, like, regardless of what you do. Like, even if you get like he is into carpenting and painting, and like he is like he is freelance now.
Yeah. Okay.
Since like 3 or 4 years, and he's like 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I'm getting into this now where I'm like, I take jobs that are like inspiring, and in different locations, and switch things up all the time just to learn new stuff. I think that's why I choose this like profession, because it's like always like some new location, some new projects, some new artists, some.
It kind of has to be too to keep it
Yeah,
fresh for what you're creating, right?
yeah.
You can't have pictures of the
I
same
could-
locale every time.
It could be like in a studio if you shoot like some kind of product, but even then it's like the product's gonna be different, like
Right. Each time.
So it's really like a lot of variation to it,
Cool.
which I like.
Yeah. If you had, let's say, other people thinking about they're interested in, let's stick with visuals since that's mostly what you're doing now. Who are starting out with this, were there any things you did at the beginning of, wanting to be a photographer or filmmaker, videographer, that you would do differently, or that you felt that like you had to learn, maybe there was a learning curve you didn't do that great with in the beginning, that you would tell someone starting out to maybe do differently? Speak up, you said?
Speed up. I don't know.
To go faster.
I know, like all beginners in the beginning, you're
Right.
like, how do I? Like you buy the camera and then you sit there in your room and you're like, how I gonna like hook any clients? Like,
Yeah.
how do I get my like first video done? Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna shoot everything, but you're like, oh, I have no projects, no. Like even if I offer myself for free, like no one wanna like
Take someone who's never done it necessarily.
Yeah. And in that advice, like do like eventually, it took me like a couple of months, but eventually I just started shooting like anything.
Yeah.
I just went into like Stockholm city and like shoot like on the subway, like just the subway, like shoot like anything for the beginning, and just get some content and like put it out on some platform like Vimeo or Instagram or all these like platforms we have today, and like just do that for. That's how I got my first gig, like with Zalando even. It was crazy, like Zalando, the big fashion clothing brand.
Yeah.
They contacted me just because I was consistent. This was like last summer. Last summer. 2017.
17. Okay.
They were contacting me just because I was consistent and I used the hashtag Stockholm on Vimeo.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because on Vimeo it's like not people
Yeah.
using it, and hashtags there are really like, if you put in a hashtag like Stockholm there, like you're gonna be in the top
Okay.
10 search.
It's a cool hack as well for people if you're have visual content.
Yeah,
Think of other platforms like
yeah,
Vimeo where you can.
Yeah, be aware of
stand out.
those, and like don't be afraid to use a platform that's like not as popular. Like because you can be popping there. Like Instagram is the biggest one. And it's hard to be popping there, but like you might find something like I recently launched some photos on, I think it's called 500pics.com,
Okay.
and all my like this. Really
What's
funny.
the idea behind that?
No, it's like
website?
it's like a Tumblr.
Okay.
It's like another version of Tumblr, but
Yeah.
it's like straight on photographers. I went on there and like all my favorite photographers were on there, and that was like a really good, like a simple Tumblr feed,
Yeah.
with like high-res images, and I haven't got any like work through that yet, but I think like it's good. And
What are some photographers that you like right now? If you don't mind me asking.
Good photographers. I like what's it called? Sam Colder, the classic cinematic YouTube travel video guy.
Okay.
He does like crazy transitions and like the concepts I really like. I don't know about his content in general, but I just know like by his show reels, it's like crazy for YouTube. And For Instagram, I like some of the fashion photographers, like Sam D. Eshek, I think his name. I don't know the names of them, but like fashion photographers that like shoot like really gorgeous models and yeah, those kind of things. That's what.
Do you like them for the photography or the gorgeous models?
No, I
or both.
Both, to be honest. Like, good-looking women inspire me.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good inspiration.
Inspiring. How do you choose? This is a more of a strategic question, but it links into hashtags you're talking about on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Taking it back to a more popular platform like Instagram.
Yeah.
How do you choose the hashtags you use for your content, and has that changed over time? Like maybe in the beginning you were trying some really popular ones, and then later on you niched down a little bit, or I don't know how that's gone.
I don't remember. Like in the beginning, I didn't put so much emphasis on hashtags. I put like 5 hashtags in there.
Yeah.
And like, it was like Insta good. If it was a black and white, I was like black and white, portrait, or like Stockholm, or like Sweden.
Yeah.
Like 5. But
keep in mind, everyone, you can have up to like 30 hashtags on Instagram, and
it goes up and down, like between 15 and 30.
And you should use hashtags on Instagram.
Yeah, use them and like play around with them, see what sticks, And I think that I was like in the beginning, I was like really modest and like 5 hashtags, and then I went on to 10, and like I started to understand like the ones that was like relevant to me. Like cinematic is a good one for me since I do cinematic content, and you will like, as you shoot like put out so much content on a platform, you will understand like you will pick up the hashtags.
Yeah,
I think it's better to like start below, with like 5 hashtags when you're starting out, and then like as you see other people's content, see what they hashtag.
Yeah, that's when I.
Then you go like grow, and you get like a base of hashtags. But don't do the copy hashtag thing on every post. So you have like the same hashtags. That's like the death on Instagram I've seen. I've used it for a while. I had like all these notes in my iPhone, or like bunts, like big chunks of. I used that, and I reached like, my engagement is dropping.
Okay.
So now every time I like strike up new hashtags like on the fly for every picture.
Cool.
It takes some extra time, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, a lot of the good things do.
Yeah.
They take extra time. Another interesting thing to think about with hashtags that I've been experimenting with lately, that I think is something that some people don't know you can do, or that it can be effective, is using hashtags in your stories when it's relevant. So you can use hashtags on your Instagram stories, and those you will show up when people, basically there's just like at the top of the profile, there's a story thing for each person's profile where you can see their story. At the top of a hashtag, when people search for something, the top will show stories with that tag. And one thing I've noticed is move it by this part if you move it. So, but one thing I've noticed is that those they're not as saturated as post hashtags right now, because not as many people are using them as consistently.
Oh yeah.
So for example, I posted yesterday when I was going to do this hip hop karaoke performance thing, and I had put a couple of hashtags, including Stockholm and maybe hip hop music.
In the story?
Yeah, in my story.
Oh, you can put several hashtags?
Yeah, so you can put one as like using the hashtag sticker.
Yeah, I know.
But you can put more just in text, and they activate.
Are they activated though?
They work as far as you can click them. I don't know if you show up at the top of the stories for those ones or not, but you can.
Okay.
They
have you seen that you got results in your analytics?
Yeah, so so this is what I was gonna say is, for example, my normal story views are for a day are anywhere from like 60 to low hundreds, like on a good day for
Yeah.
my Instagram story. When I use a tag like that, like yesterday, that has like 400 views or something. That
Yeah.
story
I know
post
that.
from
Yeah, if it's a relevant one.
yeah. So think about just something for artists of all kinds. You can
Thing
use
on
a
that
hashtag
thing
in
is
your
though,
story.
like you have to be relevant. Like,
Yes. Don't just tag everything
if it's
to try.
really relevant, like it will go sky high.
Yeah.
So keep it relevant.
Mm.
That's all. That's I think for hashtags you always gotta keep it relevant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a good point. We talked a little bit about New York. How did the Tokyo and Berlin? What did you do? Yeah, in Tokyo and Berlin, and who were you with for those?
Berlin, I was with a guy I met through doing club photography. A
Okay.
bartender at the club I was working.
Here in Stockholm.
He moved to Berlin. He was like offering me like, he saw my Instagram and it's like, "You want to come here and do some content here?
Yeah.
Like I'll help you out." And that's the thing. Like when people see that you're trying to do something like, trying to do something grand or something like bigger, then they will, like naturally, are they inclined to help you. Like
Yeah.
they feel like they wanna like add to something to it, and stay appreciative of that and like say thank you when they help you. Like say thank you, like
Yeah.
just like say thank you
All the time. Yeah.
and not like thank you like that, but say thank you.
Be like genuinely
yeah.
appreciative of people.
And
Sorry, but that was Berlin.
That was Berlin,
Yeah.
and we were down there, made some content, and just went around the city, and on bikes, and I did a little shoot with a model there, and
Was it a gorgeous model?
yeah, it was a gorgeous model,
Of course.
and then we went to Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. Like the guy was liking my visuals, and he wanted me to add something to his trip.
You link up through Instagram as well?
No,
Or you talked with them?
I
or-
met this guy at the hip hop karaoke.
Okay.
One time when we were there,
Interesting. Yeah.
and I talked to him, and then like 1 year later, like it was last year, and this year he was like just hitting me up on Instagram, like, "Yo, dude, like I like what you do. I'm going to Tokyo. Wanna come?
Yeah.
I'll pay for everything." And I was like,
Wow.
"Sure." So I did a little
Very
bit,
cool.
and the thing I do, like, I get some portfolio for
Yeah.
and I do some portfolio for him.
Yeah.
So we went there and like took a lot of photos, a lot of video, and he knew some people in Tokyo, so we went like out to the clubs, and
I saw you sleeping in a little pod hotel.
Oh yeah, Pod Hotel,
The-
and
the
those are
little
actually really,
chambers.
yeah,
Did
they're
you-
cozy,
Yeah.
like cheap and cozy. I thought they were gonna be like claustrophobic and like really nasty, but they were really nice.
I was talking with Stephanie about when we were like seeing your pictures for the podcast. Stephanie is my girlfriend that I'm living with. I don't know that I have to say who I'm living with. That seems like as opposed to the other girlfriend that I'm not living with, but no. But we were like looking at either your story or a photo, and she was like, "I don't think I'd want to stay in one of the." And I was like, "I don't know. That looks kind of comfortable. I bet it's kind of like isolated."
Yeah, it's cozy, nice.
Yeah.
You get good sleep.
Yeah.
That's the other thing when I'm out traveling. Like I get so little sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're like so inspired, it's like you can take it for a week.
Yeah.
But
You
after
want to take advantage of those times too.
yeah, but after a couple of days, you get like you get like back pain and like you get stiffness and. But that's when
All
you get
for the art.
yeah, all for the art. When you get home, you get time to get to the sauna and eat the good
and
healthy
rest.
food.
So Swedish. Get to the sauna
get to
when
the-
you get back and recuperate, relax.
Yeah. Chill with the ice bears, polar bears.
Mm-hmm. Cool. These were most of the questions that I had for you on this. Do you have any kind of I don't know, parting advice that we haven't covered? We've talked about quite a bit, but for people freelancing, wanting to kind of jump off and do their own thing, whether it could be specific to photography or videography, it could be just about anything. We have different. A lot of people who listen to this so far are music people, but
I don't know, like
it translates.
Speak things into existence. Like if you have an Instagram, like use it to like project your dreams, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish on there, so people always know where you want to go, because people, like I said, want to help you out.
Yeah.
So as long as you keep the hashtags are relevant, or like, and the hashtags can be relevant for something in the future. Like if you want to do like go to some place or something in the future, like you can put hashtags on there that are not relevant now, but are you know they're gonna be relevant at some point.
So maybe like tagging what a city you want to shoot in,
Yeah,
or
like
something like
for
that.
for me at this moment, I do a lot of hashtags of Bali, you know, in Indonesia, and New York, because I want to go back to New York and do content there. And I want to go to the tropics, like Indonesia. So that's not like relevant now, but it probably will be relevant in the spring or like next winter. So I keep like already now. If it's like next winter, I'm already now DMing people in Indonesia. Yeah. Like for you to establish some connections there. So yeah. That's what would be my tip at the moment.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming in and doing this, being our first interview on How to Art.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and I guess now we'll throw it to some music reviews or whatever we end up recording with Sebastian when my co-host is back. Cool. Thank you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. Wow. What a guy, a real artist. Now, what
Solid dude.
Yeah, it was actually fun sitting down with him. I'll have to show you what some of the stuff we got later. But
yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't a part of the interview. I know you guys are gonna be really bummed out about that. I know that I was.
It's 2 microphones, and we just,
Yeah, I had to go. I wasn't welcome. They kicked me out.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
You're a good sport. Let's go right into our music then, because the interview is pretty long. I think we got like 30 or 40 minutes out of just the interview segment. So it's on the episode. We've barely started the wine. Go ahead and tell us about the albums that we're talking about. Our first one today.
Okay, should I mention the albums, all the albums, like right now, and then we can go into more specifics, or should I?
Sure, why not?
So we have 3 releases for today. We have the big one, the like big label release, and that one we're gonna talk about. It's album A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships by 1975, and then we have Midnight Rocket by WIINSTON. And then we have
WIINSTON.
WIINSTON.
I saw it was 2 I's, and I wasn't sure how you pronounce it, but I was pretty sure it was Winston.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Black Lion, right?
Yeah.
Black Lion.
Sometimes it's like Black Lion groups, and they have on some of their different things, like Black Lion Productions, etc. But we'll
and it was their EP, Free Association.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about all those as usual. We have something at a a major label release level somewhere, a very indie, small-time project, and then something in between. And we're going to talk about all 3 with regards to where they are.
Yeah.
If you guys have music that you want us to review, I've been contacted a couple times this week. I'll have to send you some options for the first episode when we're back. Cool. Let's talk about A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships.
Yeah, okay. So I have to first mention that I might be a bit biased in my review of this album, because...
I'm just adjusting your mic real quick. Keep talking.
Yeah, because in 1975 is, in fact, my favorite band. They've been my favorite band for, like, 3 or 4 years.
You can say probably since I've known you.
Yeah, absolutely. I first saw them back in 2013. Okay. And like at a very like small club, and they've been growing ever since, and I think now they're like almost ready to play the biggest venues in Stockholm anyway.
Yeah, didn't they play the biggest one last time? Were they in Globen or something?
No, I don't think. No, well, maybe you're right.
Okay. I remember. I forget what their poster was, but I know it was a pretty big show.
Yeah. I was there, so I should remember, but I don't. But anyway, you're probably right.
They're big.
Yeah, but anyway, 1975, they're like a pop. Basically, you could say a pop band, like a pop band, pop quartet from quartet, sorry, from Manchester, UK, and this is their third full-length album, and it is a long one. It has, what is it, like 15 songs, I think.
I think so.
Something like that. And basically, I mean, I could start talking about the fact that this is like the first album of two, and like
Okay.
they're calling this like an era, basically.
That I did not know.
No, so it's called their Music for Cars era.
Okay.
They actually, their one of their first EPs was called Music for Cars, and then they announced that they were gonna release a new album, like a full-length album called Music for Cars. But that album turned into two when they realized that they had so much material. So this year they had a brief inquiry into online relationships. And next year they're releasing another album called Notes on a Conditional Form. And I think that's going to come out next summer or something. At least that's what they've been saying.
These titles.
They are a bit pretentious, but I like them. It's expected if you know the kind of like quirky person that Maddie is. He's a bit pretentious, but he knows it, and he's not ashamed of it. He's just a human being.
Just a bloke trying to make his way in the world.
Yep. So do you want to continue on, or should
Sure, I can say so. So from my perspective, this is different for me because I've never listened all the way through to the 1975 album. So by the way, what's the name story? There's got to be like something behind why they're the 1975.
I think it was something about them that they found a journal somewhere. I don't know if it was like an abandoned hospital or something. I might completely like butcher this story, and it might be wrong.
Sebastian's just making up ghost stories at this point.
Basically, yeah. But I think it was something like that, and it was just signed with something, blah blah blah, end of entry, like the 1975. It was something I don't remember, but there is
obviously you feel like a name like that has backstory. Like
you
choose a year for a certain reason or something. So yeah. Okay. So this is my first time listening through to one of their albums, and it was, as Sebastian knows, it's different music maybe than I'd like listen to often, and a couple of the projects this week were, but I liked this project, and we'll talk about later, but I scored it fairly highly because I think that it was one of those albums which is always, these types for me anyways, feel a little bit hard to kind of review or rank or grade, which is that very like well constructed, and I enjoyed a lot of the elements that made the record. Yeah. At the same time, it was very much, for me anyways, something where I'd want to be in a certain mood to listen to it. Yeah. Especially with a lot of the more sort of mellow and atmospheric tracks with like a lot of wide reverby sounds going on. And this was something also we'll talk about with the WIINSTON project as well. I felt actually both of these were something that I could enjoy, but I would need it to be in a place where I wanted that kind of background. It's not something I'm going to really put on at a party outside of a couple tracks and things like that. Speaking of a couple tracks, so we had, now Give Yourself a Try. Yeah. Right? Is this one been released as a single before the album? Because I felt like I'd heard that.
Yeah, it was the first. It was the first single from their album. I think I played it at one of your parties.
That could be then. Yeah. Because that, like, that was familiar to me, so I enjoyed listening to that. It's
it's one of the more upbeat songs.
Exactly. That's why I had poppy, catchy, upbeat written. I really also, speaks to the mood thing we were talking about. I really liked the there were a couple tracks. One was Love It If We Make It. Yeah. And another was Mine. But especially Love It If We Make It. There were a couple of those that really gave me that kind of like 80s movie soundtrack. Like I could hear this song in a scene in The Breakfast Club or something like that. Yeah. Which was kind of cool because you don't as often maybe get like teleported to those times and places in modern music where those sounds are so accurately kind of recreated, but with something that's still original and it's new music in 2018. So I thought that was really cool. Those were a couple that stood out for me.
Yeah.
Which ones were kind of your highlights for this?
I mean, I enjoyed almost every song, or basically every song, but I felt like there were a few standouts. One of them were Mine, like you mentioned, and I think that's an interesting song because it's sort of like it almost sounds like something pulled out from like big band era of like this sort of like romantic jazzy type sound. And it actually contains like one of the last recordings of do you know who Roy Hargrove is?
I don't know, the name sounds familiar.
He's a trumpet player.
Okay.
It was basically one of the last songs that he recorded on before he died. He passed away just a couple of weeks ago, I think, maybe a couple of months ago. Time flies, guys, just so you know. But
we had a comment in the chat here. 1975. Never heard of such. Had to Google them, and they are dead in Poland. So maybe that's why. I don't know. What do you mean by that? Maybe some clarification. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Unsure on that one.
Dead in Poland. What? Maybe they're not famous in Poland. Maybe.
Could be. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Time flies. Passed away a couple weeks or months ago.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting because that's definitely a new sound. Like for someone, I mean, you haven't listened to their previous albums, but it's definitely a new sound for them.
Mm.
But I feel like they pulled it off. They made it their own sound. It sounded modern, but it still had a lot of...
Sorry, how would it, would you say, like, differed from the previous releases, or what were they more like or focused on?
I mean, okay, so...
For maybe someone like me who hasn't listened to them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their 2016 album, Jesus Christ, it has a long title. I should remember it, but it's I like it when you sleep, for you are so beautiful yet so unaware of it. It's the actual album title. That album was very like 80s influenced. I mean, they still are, but it was a lot more like 80s pop influenced.
Okay.
A lot more like synthy tracks and not as much organic sounds as they were like doing on this album. Not as much acoustic stuff and so on. And their self-titled album from 2013, I think it has to be, or 2014 possibly. Like I said, time flies. That album was still like 80s inspired, but it was more like pop rock-ish. It was a bit more modern in the sound, like. So that's it. But yeah, Mine was definitely a different song. Maybe not one of my favorites, but it was definitely a standout track for that reason alone. But one of my absolute favorite tracks was one called How to Draw, Petrichor.
Yeah, I remember this track.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a revamped version of a bonus track from their previous album. So basically, it begins with like a slow interlude feel with some like swelling synths and some string sounds and some sort of like percussion based instrument. And they had that on their last album, but this time they, instead of just doing like regular vocals, they used like this sort of like almost like harmonizer autotune effect going on. Sounds a bit like Bon Iver's latest. Sort of like he has this thing called a prismizer. Have you heard of it?
I'm not sure. Is it like a vocoder type thing? Or?
Yeah, it's similar to a vocoder.
Okay.
It's sort of like a weird vocoder harmonizer thing in one. I don't know the exact science behind it, but it sounds pretty cool. And that's basically what they used in this track on the vocals to change it up a bit. And that just moves into like a completely different song. It transitions into this sort of like house track. It reminds me a bit of like John Hopkins with like stuttering synths. I don't know have you heard John Hopkins?
No.
Okay, John Hopkins is an excellent producer. He does sort of like house and techno, really cool vibes. I saw him live just a couple of months ago.
Okay.
But anyway, the album turns from that into sort of like a UK garage or garage, as they would say. A UK garage type vibe with like a pitch shift vocal part, and it reminds me of have you heard Burial? This is gonna be another episode where I'm like, have you heard of?
Don't think so.
Okay, Burley is like one of the like legends when it comes to dubstep. Like,
Okay.
and I'm not talking about Skrillex, bro step. I'm talking like it's sort of similar to like garage.
Yeah.
Basically, it's sort of where like the UK garage, future garage, like genre came from. But I really enjoyed that song, and also, I mean, a song like Two Time.
Yeah.
It's a catchy one, and it's also different from what they've done before. It's very auto-tuned. It's a poppy song. It's basically Matty, the vocalist. He's been, or like he's not only a vocalist, the front man. He plays guitar and sings and everything.
Okay.
He's been like, they've always been very. It's always been important for them to have a message with their songs, or like, I mean, not always, but they usually have like a bit of a political angle to their lyrics, especially lately. But he was like, I just wanted to do a fun pop song, so that's what they did with this one, and it's just fun. It's very like catchy and danceable and everything. So, and you can tell that they worked with there's an artist called No Rome. A guy that produces music and sings. He's from the Philippines, I think.
Okay.
But I think
I learned so much.
But he's currently based in the UK though, because they've been working together. So on No Rome's latest album, they had a song called Narcissist where Maddie featured on vocals, and now they also collaborated on the album. I know that No Rome, he wasn't like featured, but I know that he was like co-producer or produced a track with them.
Got it.
But I mean, one thing that I really like about this album is the fact that they've always been this way, but they're always like treading new territory. They're always doing like new things with their music, at least new for them. Because I mean, they have the song like
I mean,
you
that's
said,
to be respected as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Give Yourself a Try, that song.
Yeah.
The guitar riff is actually lifted straight from a Joy Division song to the point where I think they pay royalties to Joy Division, but it's not like they were like, it's not like they ripped it off,
right? It was
open
intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, above board about it.
Exactly, and then we have like other tracks sort of like Surrounded by Heads and Bodies. It sounds very like Radiohead-ish. It has like a very Radiohead like chord progression. And some like slow crooning from Maddie on top of that. And then also, It's Not Living If It's Not With You.
Maddie, why don't you marry him?
I would if I could.
Yeah, probably.
No homo. Or a bit homo. Sorry, guys.
A little bit.
I mean, they are my favorite.
In a good way.
band. What?
In a good way.
In a good way. But anyway, of course, I should mention that Daniel, the drummer, he's an excellent producer. I think he's done a lot of the work, like always, and probably some of my favorite parts of their sound has been made by him. And did I say Daniel? I meant George. His name's George Daniel.
You did say Daniel.
Yeah, but his name is George Daniel. And then we have Ross, and then we have Adam. All excellent musicians.
Yeah.
And I could completely butcher it. I hope I didn't say any names wrong, except for the first one, because I meant George. But anyway, It's Not Living If It's Not With You is an interesting song, because that's a lot.
I'm not sure I remember.
It's one of the like 80s inspired. It's like a very anthem-y.
I did enjoy that like mood of the project a lot.
But basically, it sounds like it's about if you just listen to the chorus, it sounds like it's about a girl, but it's actually about heroin, because Maddie dealt with a heroin addiction just before they recorded this album, and he went to rehab and everything, and now he's clean. For now, anyway. I hope that it sticks, but as we all know, a lot of people that use heroin, they fall back sometimes. But he seemed like he's in a good place for this one. And I also really like Sincerity is Scary. That song, do you remember which one that was?
I'm not sure if I do.
Okay, it's like a really catchy, like jazzy, hip-hop, pop-inspired, like gospel-y. It's like...
There were a lot of tracks on this. I had trouble...
Like, friends if we are lovers.
I think, yeah.
Anyway, that one is also one of my favorites. It sounds a bit like a song from the previous album that was called If I Believe You, but It definitely they took the style from that track and they evolved it, and it sounds a lot better. It sounds more refined, like they actually worked more on it. And basically one of my favorite tracks was I Like America and America Likes Me, because it was sort of like a Travis Scott meets Bon Iver type of like trap song. It was very different.
It was different
for them.
But can we talk about the man who married a robot?
Oh yeah.
/ love theme. Wait, give me your opinion on that. I'll give you mine after. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a track where it's a few minutes long, and the only vocals in it for the first, I don't know, minute and a half, minute 45 seconds are a basically like text to speech Stephen Hawking type voice telling a story, and it's one of those tracks that does the title justice of the album, A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships, and it's about at its simplest, a man who was best friends with the internet and basically personifies the internet and talks about that.
Yeah,
what he does. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like it's basically the relationship between almost everyone and the internet right now. And I think it's an interesting track. I mean, at first I was very skeptical.
Me too. I thought it was a skit, and then it kept going.
Yeah, it's sort of like an interlude, but it definitely serves its purpose. And
I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, and I like the lyrical content. It's very like on the nose. It's just like
exactly.
It's very
like because it's not exactly. There's no. Yeah, as you say, on the nose. It's not a subtlety. It's like the man would watch videos of naked people. Like he remembered the pictures of his penis and stuff like that.
Exactly, and I think it's very...
Which was a contrast from a lot of more artistic takes in other tracks, for
Absolutely, but I think they just wanted to be blunt. Like, to make people think what they exactly are doing with their lives. Because a lot of people are probably sacrificing like personal relationships for their like online... followers on Instagram and everything.
Of course,
like, a lot of people are just living their lives at their like on their phone, at their computer, like with the internet.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it's telling that the internet knows everything about you and knows what you like. And I mean it's a good track. I think a lot of people will find it a bit too much, but I personally enjoy it. It might not be the track that you put on from the album, but it's in the context of the album. It works, and it is interesting, and I understand why they did the track, and it was a good choice. So that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on this one before we go to scores?
I'm getting a phone call.
Well, tell him to fuck off.
I think I should take it.
Who is it? All right, take the phone call, but you have to stay on the podcast.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah, take it.
Ja, det är Sebastian.
Got a phone call. You guys are gonna hear some Swedish.
Förlåt? Ja, tjena.
This motherfucker taking a phone call.
Nej, herregud. Jag jobbar inte ens kvar faktiskt.
Oj.
Sebastian, du vet, kommer du ihåg mig? Jag hade skägg och grejer. Jaha, okej. Ja, nej, men det är lugnt, men ja. Men jag kommer ihåg det i alla fall, så det var inte så konstigt i alla fall, men som sagt, men det är ingen fara alls, du. Det är ingen fara alls. Ja, men absolut. Lycka till. Ha det bra, man. Hej. So that was a funny call.
So what was that about? Explain for the English-speaking audience.
So basically I got a phone call from this guy that works at Samsung. And
Got a comment on the live stream chat. How's it going? I'd call you, but I'm at work. This is like not synced up for some reason. I don't know why, so I'm keeping track of it on here. I'll let you know if anything important comes in.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a bit embarrassing, but it was fun. I'm mostly embarrassed for him though. But he was trying to call another guy called Sebastian. He's like, hey man, are you at the store? And I was like, what? No. And like for reference, I worked at a store, like a Tele2 store. Tele2 is one of the like main like phone carriers or well, cell phone providers basically in Sweden. And this guy, he works at Samsung. He sort of fixes the phones. He comes in and just checks on the store from time to time. And he was just asking me if I was in the store, and I don't know, it was like a year.
He's decidedly not in the store.
No, and it was a year and a half ago since I quit that job. I've had 2 other jobs since then, so it was just a bit funny, but it was a mix-up. I think he had my number from before, but I was waiting for another call, so that's why I thought that I had to take it. But, well, interesting content, okay?
Wow, this is gonna make some good meme videos for Instagram. I'm gonna get on them edits when we're
maybe we can just cut this part out.
No.
Just for this, the streamers can like the people watching the Twitch stream. They can have this one, but
that's all right. Let's leave it in.
It's all right. Okay.
All right, score for the album. Closing thoughts and score for A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships by the 1975.
Yes, I'm gonna try and keep myself brief because I've been talking a lot, but I was gonna say the only negative aspect of the album was the fact that I felt like the singles misrepresented the album, because all the singles that they released beforehand were really like upbeat.
Which other tracks were singles besides the one I mentioned, the Give Yourself a Try?
Okay, so it was Give Yourself a Try. It was Love It If We Made It. And let's see here. Sincerity is Scary.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
and two time.
Okay, so I get that feel.
So basically all the like upbeat tracks were singles, and then they released the album, and almost all the tracks were like slow ballads. Almost.
I think it's not uncommon to bury those types of tracks in an album behind like a release of singles, but as you say, but when that happens, usually those types of tracks don't make up so much of the album, right? You might have a couple of slow tracks that aren't singles, and you just let album listeners discover it. But yeah, I got you.
Absolutely, but I mean, like the singles were all up tempo. I mean, they weren't like one type of track. They were like different types of sounds in there. But when the album came out and I first listened through it, I was a bit like, it felt like it was not lacking in content, but it was just not what I expected. So sort of like we have the songs like Be My Mistake. It's a very slow, like bare bones track with just like acoustic guitar and Maddie singing. And then we have Inside Your Mind that has almost the exact chord progression of Baba O'Reilly by The Who. Did you hear that? Yeah. And I Couldn't Be More in Love. That sounds almost like a 80s inspired like Michael Jackson track. I don't know if you remember that one. And then also the closing track, I Always Want to Die Sometimes.
Yeah.
That sounds almost like Britpop. It sounds a bit like The Verve, Oasis, and those types of bands. And I mean, it's all very good. It works really well in the context of the album. I wasn't disappointed by the album, but I was just hoping for a few more like tracks that were a bit more evolved in the sound. Like, I like their slow songs, I do, but it was a bit too much like acoustic and guitar stuff. I like their like electronic stuff. But I'm expecting the next album, because from what I've heard, Notes in a Conditional Form that comes out next year should be more, it's supposed to be like a nighttime album, and it's supposed to have a lot more like electronic influence. So I'm still like influenced by aforementioned Burial and also The Streets and stuff like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next album. And this one, I would still give it a 9.5 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10.
9.5. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a 9 to 9.5 out of 10.
Crazy.
Depending
on fanboy.
Yeah, I mean, I am gonna be honest, and I'm gonna say that I am biased. It's my favorite band. I'm definitely like.
I thought it was good, and I gave 7.5.
Okay, I understand.
I thought it was good, but yeah.
Yeah, but like.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, definitely.
Okay. I get that. let's move on to the WIINSTON project then.
WIINSTON.
What can you tell us about WIINSTON? WIINSTON. So I was like, is it WIINSTON or Winston? WIINSTON. Hello. WIINSTON. But no, it's Winston.
No, actually, I first heard WIINSTON, I think it was like early this year.
Okay.
When I heard their track called Rosa.
Yep.
And it's a really good track. It's one of the standout tracks. I'm gonna come to that a bit more later. But
I noted that as well.
But I didn't realize until yesterday, when I was doing a bit more research. No, it was the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
That they're actually a duo, so they're not one guy, and they're from Denmark.
Yes, I saw that only because on Spotify it was their label was Denmark. It was a Denmark branch of some, I forget, one of the bigger labels.
I think it was Universal or something like that.
Yeah. So it's like Universal Denmark released the album.
Yeah. But anyway, the album is called Midnight Rocket. It came out in November. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was like November 16th or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is their first album that they released, and they do like the sort of I don't know what I want to call it, but it's sort of like R&B. It's sort of like this almost nocturnal R&B type of sound. It's very like reverby beats, spacey type of sounds, and a lot of synthesizers and like pitched and modulated voices in the background. I really like it. I don't know, like, I don't want to compare it to like artists as like Drake and The Weeknd, but it sort of reminds me.
I mean, The Weeknd did come to mind, especially in the even obviously because The Weeknd's a very unique voice, but in the instrumentation and the idea behind like the tracks, that was something that came to my mind as well.
Yeah, I mean you can say that if you like music like from their labels, you know, OVO and XO basically. I mean, if you enjoy like the OVO type artists like Party Next Door, Roy Woods and stuff like that, I think you would enjoy this album. But anyway, this is their first album, and they only started making music together last year, from what I could find. And it's just like, what I like about it is how it's like, it has this very like big sound, like a big spacious sound, and it just feels like a perfect nighttime in the big city type of feel. I don't know if you get what I mean, but
absolutely.
I can see myself walking like in a big metropolitan type of.
It could be you listen to the project and you feel like just about every track would be appropriate if the music video were walking through a dark city with dark like neon, bright light buildings.
Lights. Yeah, absolutely.
I get that.
And that's one of my favorite like feelings to get from music overall. Okay, so I mean, I definitely enjoyed the beats. I enjoyed the singing. He has a really nice voice. The vocalist. I know that their names are Daniel Richards and Alfred Thomas. Or since they're Danish, it's probably
Thomas.
Daniel Richards.
Thomas.
Alfred Thomas. But anyway, Daniel Richards and Alfred Thomas. We're gonna keep this in English. So I don't know. I actually couldn't find information on who does what in the project. But so I'm gonna go on a. I'm gonna call them producer and vocalist. I'm not gonna say who's who. Good. But anyway,
safe. I like it.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that the vocalist had a very like, he has a good range, but he's like a bit more lower pitched than a lot of other like vocalists in the scene, or like in the R&B scene. But I like the lyrics. I didn't pay that much attention to them because they didn't feel like the vital part of the record. But I like how it wasn't just about like doing like taking stands and
Molly Percocet. Sorry,
yeah, exactly. Percocet, Molly Percocet, and the lyrics were more about like love and stuff like that, instead of just being about fucking 3 different girls in one night, or boys, or whatever you wanna. Okay,
speaking of,
I mean men, not boys. Sorry.
Fucking hell. This episode is so.
It's derailed, but
episode 3 was a turning point.
That's when it all went to.
It went wrong. Speaking of like talking about women on the tape or not, one of the things is there is a woman who recorded 3 skits on this or interlude tracks which are talking. The content of those, I mean, they're pretty brief, like 13 to 30 second type of range. The content of those is fine, but I actually really appreciated them just being in there.
To break up the
I liked
song.
that. I liked it. It reminded me a lot of. I mean, a lot of people did that before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not as common right now in kind of rapid fire release music projects to have either skits or interludes or brief kind of monologue things as they and so I think you not only can it be refreshing to hear them, but you also have to be more careful because people aren't as used to that right now or maybe don't care for it, and so it has to be done well. But I actually appreciated that it was kind of broken up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was really good. Like, I read about it, and they basically what they said about the album. They said that it's a slideshow based on the past 1 to 5 years of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Every picture projected.
Wait, did they say 1.25 or 1.5?
No, 1 to 5. 1 to 5 years over. I mean,
Okay.
I think what they mean is it's based on the last 5 years. I don't know why they.
Okay.
I don't know why they're saying 1 to 5,
Okay.
but that's what it says actually. And
Could be 2, could be 5. Who knows?
and
Somewhere in there.
it's supposed to be like a slideshow, and every picture projected shows emotions, situations, and relations connected to the space travel they've embarked on.
I need to learn how to write album descriptions like this.
Yeah, and they're like, this project must be considered in its entirety like a movie. It's love, lust, life, death, happiness, depression of fast cars. Don't just watch a single scene. So I mean, that's an interesting way to put it, and I think they mean
like
that you should listen to the entire album, like listen to it as a whole, and not just listen to the singles or the like a few tracks. And I mean that makes sense. But I thought like Rosa was one of the standout tracks for me.
Yeah, I noted that one
as well. As I like Canada. That was also a good one.
Hmm?
And I think I heard Canada a while ago, and I think that's what threw me off. I thought they were from Canada or from the U.S.
Yeah.
But also the guy that sings, he doesn't have like any sort of accent. Like
No, I wouldn't have clocked that they were from.
I don't know if they're just based in Denmark, and he might be like born in the U.S. and moved there. I mean, they would still be a Danish duo, I guess. But yeah, from what I can tell, I mean, he could just be really, really good at English, and accents sometimes vanish when you sing. So I mean, it's not that weird. But I enjoyed the album.
I like the couple tracks called Substance and Rational as well was another that I enjoyed. One thing for me that wasn't as this was pulled in. There were a couple things about this that pulled in kind of opposite directions for me, and I understand before I even say it that this is personal and that it's different people will absolutely care or not care about this in very different amounts. But one thing that I was a little bit frustrated by was that so many of the tracks had very simple, generic trap drum patterns as far as their hi-hat rolls and things like this. And yet, they had really nice, like, ambient and atmospheric instrumentation over them.
Yeah.
And I really liked a lot of the big, wide sounds and instruments that they used on the production.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit frustrating for me that I almost, a lot of times, I wanted, like, a big reverby drum hit instead of a really tight, clear hi-hat roll or something like that. That I thought that could have maybe added a little more variation to some of the tracks. I understand that, like, where, like, music and especially popular music right now is at, like, that's not something necessarily to fault them for or that's wrong, and it's a good sound and a lot of people like it. But sometimes I hear all these other unique elements, and then you've got almost every single track with a and you're kind of like, okay, well,
Yeah, I mean,
But that, like I said, I know that's
I understand where you're coming
right,
from, and I agree to a certain extent, absolutely. But it's just, I know that I myself am a, when I do like production, it's
Yeah.
a very nice beat to fall back on, to just do
Mm.
like the trap
Yeah.
drums and stuff. But yeah, I agree. But
I don't think for the like viability or anything of their music it takes away from it. I think it's just
no, and I
just for me. I wouldn't.
and I was actually surprised at how much they could avoid using it as well, because I feel like some of the songs were just, it didn't have that much, like that many hi-hats. It was just a lot of it was a lot of atmospheric drums, but it wasn't it like they could have gone with a more like organic drum sound
Yeah.
for a few of the songs. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It wasn't a big deal for me. I like it didn't bother me anyway. But like
Yeah.
but like you said, the production, like the spacious reverby beats, they were really good, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That was like one of the main, like the best parts of the album.
I can go first for the score on this one.
Sure.
So for the Winston album, it's Midnight Rocket, right?
Yep.
That's the name, yeah. This for me, I wouldn't say suffered from, but as we talked about earlier, or was similar to the 1975 offering in the fact that I want to, not only did it, as we talk about, evoke a certain feel, but I want to be in a certain place to listen to it. It was actually, when I was listening to this a couple nights ago, and I listened to it again last night, it was really nice when I was kind of like just like playing a like relaxing video game and just had it on and like in the background. I was kind of just like vibing out to it and like listening without focusing, especially on the second listen through, like really like, you know, focusing and honing in on it. And it was a really nice like mood set, and I really enjoyed that. But again, there are, you know, it's a type of project where I think there are maybe only, for me personally, I know there are only a couple of tracks that I'll probably ever listen to again on my own, without, like, for whatever reason, intentionally revisiting the album.
Yeah.
But so for me, which, you know, we will have to talk maybe about scales and stuff at some point for this, because we'll like assess it differently.
Yeah.
Because I would give this like a kind of as before, like a solid 7 to a 7.5 for me.
Yeah.
It was a well made project. It was just kind of had a niche for me, rather than being a kind of something that I'm just gonna like, I've got to listen to this again and again.
No, I understand. I mean, when it comes to 975, if we're just backtracking a bit to,
Oh boy,
we're not gonna do this the whole thing.
here
but-
we go.
No,
Just
I'm
kidding.
sorry, guys, but
I'm
no.
just joking.
For me, the 975 is one of those bands that I can listen to no matter what mood I'm in, because it always fits the mood. Like it always makes me feel
Okay.
a certain way, and it always. And if there's a certain track that you don't
Go ahead. Yeah.
like, you will be able to find another one in their discography, since they have such a like varied sound. But going back to Winston, I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
it quickly. I enjoyed it, and I agree that you have to be in a certain mood for it to work. For me, I would probably like listening to this after like a night out, maybe like listening to on the bus, just a tiny bit like drunk,
Tiny bit.
a tiny bit.
I've seen this band.
I never get a tiny bit drunk. It's but you know,
I get what you mean. Yeah.
a little faded. You know.
Yeah.
No, but
I got you.
but I did like it, and I wanted to give it a 7.5 to an 8.
Yep.
And I mean, I feel like it makes sense, because I chose these two albums and because I like them.
Yeah.
So I mean, that I'm giving a higher score, it makes sense. But I couldn't really decide, so I'm gonna give it a 7.75 out of 10.
Fair enough.
So it's sort of like a soft 8. I'm giving it a soft 8.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
One thing that came to mind when you mentioned this, you were saying like for whatever, or it gets me in a certain mood listening to the 1975, or I can find a track for whatever I want to feel. One thing that it made me think about, that is an interesting discussion. We don't have to like jump into a whole thing right now, but could be just maybe an interesting article to write, or something like that for the blog, or just discussion to have, is and maybe it's different for different people, how you consume music. Do you put on music to feel a certain way, or do you feel a certain way and want to hear
something
certain songs.
that reflects on
Right.
those feelings. Yeah.
And so that's kind of there is like a maybe time and a place where you're in a certain mood and you want to hear a certain type of songs,
Yeah.
and then completely the other way where you maybe start listening to something and you find yourself in a completely different space than you were before,
Absolutely.
which is interesting.
I'm
to think about.
very easily influenced by music. I
Yeah.
mean, I usually put on music that fits the mood that I'm in, but I mean, there are also times where I'm like, yeah, I really need a song to pick me up, like, and then I put on something
Sure.
up tempo. But usually, if I'm feeling like a bit depressed or anxious, I prefer not listening to like happy music because it sort of like amplifies
Slap
the
in the
vibes.
face
Yeah,
a
exactly.
bit,
It's like
yeah.
a slap in the face,
I
and
gotcha.
you get more stressed out over the fact that someone can sing something and sound really happy and cheerful, and you feel like
And you're like,
yeah, everything's shit. So that's something that I've been like, if I'm listening to like Chance the Rapper, that's not really something that I can put on when I'm in a bad mood.
sure.
So that's more like happy
Yeah.
music for me. Chance the Rapper.
That's
is
like
just
more when you just like. It's something you put on when you just like want zero problems, big fella.
zero problems, big fella. And
Sorry.
yeah, that absolutely. But also, I feel like also music also for me correlates a lot to the season, like especially here in Sweden where it's
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit last episode.
yeah. I mean, it's not all the same. I mean, it depends.
We talked about this the summer 8 and the winter 7
exactly,
concept. Yeah.
and that's it. Like for example, Chance the Rapper, like he's a summer 10, but in the winter. Yeah, it's
not what you're looking for.
Almost a 10, basically, but but it's not.
Soft 10.
It's usually not what I would like,
Yeah.
listen to because it doesn't fit with the whole darkness and the dreary snowfall. But have you listened to his new tracks that he released?
No, I haven't.
They're good.
When was this?
I think they were released like a week ago, like this Friday.
Oh, cool.
Or
Yeah,
maybe-
no, I have to. Is it? Sorry, guys. Inquiry here. Is it an actual project or is it?
No, it's just two. He released two singles.
Okay.
I think
From
that
something upcoming, hopefully.
possibly, probably, but I
Yeah.
don't know. But I mean, he released a couple of songs this last summer. Do you remember those? Like,
I
it was
think
like
so. Yeah.
Four tracks
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I remember.
And this.
I'll have to listen to the new ones then.
Yeah, no, one of the songs or both of them were actually really good. One was with Joey Perp.
Cool. Yeah.
It was good. It's good.
Nice.
So I can recommend them.
Mm?
Okay, shall we move on to the indie?
So
release?
we had. I think I found. I'm trying to remember these guys via Reddit originally, and then moved on to their SoundCloud. But we're talking today about a collective called Black Lion. And I pulled up their. I've been reading this as well already, but I wanted to pull this up so we could talk a little more about their bio. Okay.
Yeah.
So on SoundCloud, they know being a group of friends before becoming a collective, and they are two Rich Lindo and J.R. Henry Lindo are two brothers that have kind of spearheaded this group, and the two brothers have been collaborating since 2012. But their first projects as Black Lion and with other members were in 2016.
Yeah.
So they've had a couple of years since they earned off of that first project a Canadian Music Week showcase. So that's cool. I don't know exactly what that entails, but good on them. Anyways, and then this project right now is a 7-song. They're calling it a debut EP. So I don't know exactly what the first projects were. I don't know. Terms are loose these days.
I think it was. I think their first releases were mixtapes.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. And it's called Free Association. And was it 7 tracks, 8 tracks?
I think they had like a deluxe.
Yeah,
version
I think
of
this
that,
ones 8 tracks.
and it had 8 tracks. The deluxe version.
Exactly. And so they are not even primarily. I would say that this just is a hip hop group. This is a rap group. They have several different vocalists doing both their verses and then hooks as well. There are a lot of, which was something that was a little bit confusing from me, man. Didn't need to do more research or talk to them. There were almost every track notes a feature,
Yeah, yeah.
and I wasn't sure exactly how in-rooted each of those features was or wasn't with the group itself, and how much of them were one-off
No, that,
vocalists, and without knowing who's doing which parts, it's a little
yeah.
hard to evaluate things, but
Yeah, that's what happens when a group calls themselves a collective. You don't really know, like, when they write, like, featuring something, is that
a frequent collaborator that's part of the collective?
Is that
or?
someone from the collective,
Right.
or is it just a one-off collaboration with someone, and do they have other collaborators on that track, but they're not featured because they are in the collective? And
Right, yeah.
so those are the things that I actually were curious about. So tell me, please, what you found out about that, if you did.
I didn't find. The short answer is I didn't really find out much about that.
Fair enough.
I looked into it, but also this is, which is part of being the, smaller indie release on the project. The information outside of a SoundCloud bio, Facebook page is a little bit more scarce, but
Yeah, I just thought if you maybe like email them or ask them.
I only talk with them over a couple of SoundCloud messages before deciding to do this. But the reason I chose this project is that I one of the things I want to preface this with, because I was very positive on this project, and one of the things that I want to preface this with is that I, especially since starting to run, I have like a music community Discord with a lot of people that are releasing projects now, which has been awesome. We have like 150 people in there now. Like it's growing, and we have quite a few who are active, and I get projects from members, I get projects from the subreddits I'm on, I get people coming into the Twitch stream and like, hey, can you listen to this? I just put out an EP, blah, 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 and sharing tracks, right? So I hear a lot of things in this genre and at this level in the genre, whereas people putting out their first official projects, and they're, starting, they've dabbled for a couple of years, and now they're taking it more seriously, and here's what I have to offer, etc.
Yeah.
And when I kind of was looking through some posts about these, people releasing their different projects, the reason I reached out to them, if we could use it in the review, is that I was impressed with a lot of things about this project for where it was.
Yeah.
I've listened to quite a few things from different collectives that is kind of like Brockhampton got popular, so let's do a rap boy band thing as well. Yeah. And they don't always come. It's not only are the skill levels, a big problem in groups like this normally is that you have a large disparity in skill level.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be like a few good rappers and a few friends that joined in just for fun,
and people tell them they're good or think they are, but really they kind of drag things down a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's fairly common. I was pleasantly surprised to not really hear that on this project. In that there maybe I remember having a couple lines hitting my ears of like, oh, maybe a like punchline was a little bit corny or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was a rare thing, and one of the main things that I appreciated about this was not hearing like whole verses or really even multiple bars in a verse from someone who it was clear they like were quite bad as far as just timing and rapping off beat and stuff like that. I understand it. Like, I don't know. I'm a scrawny white boy rapping and doing my thing, and so I get that everyone in 2018 and God for a few years now has like been a rapper and and thinks that like just because they can write a few things like that's what they are, and sure that's what they are, but it doesn't mean you're a good rapper. It's like it's in entrepreneurship. It's like you can put CEO in your bio, but if it's a shitty company that's made no money, that doesn't really mean much.
No.
And so I was pleasantly surprised to not hear that like disparity on this project, which was quite nice.
Exactly. There was no lines that just hit the like ear wrong.
There's no lines where you're just like, kick this guy out before he ruins
No,
you, and that happens
no,
sometimes.
it sounded very like professional. It didn't sound like amateurish,
Nope.
and it doesn't sound like SoundCloud rappers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it has a very like timeless sort of sound that I enjoyed. I thought it was interesting that how much they pulled from like the last 20 years of hip hop basically
Yeah.
in the sound.
The production was really clean without having to be modern in a way.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean. Like, yeah.
I mean, they had some songs with like trappy
Yes,
hi-hats
yeah,
and
100%.
cymbals, and I mean, and it worked. It
Yeah.
sounded good, but I really liked how they were like they had some sort of like a few songs that almost sounded like 90s inspired.
There
like
were a
boom
lot
bap,
of exactly. There were a lot of like boom bap elements coming into play with modern production, which was cool to see.
Yeah, and also some sort of like from the early like 2000s, you know, like conscious
Yeah,
hip hop,
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like that vibe. I got like vibes from that's what I mean, like the last 20 years. We had some trap from today and some
Yeah.
of the like conscious hip hops or like
Mid 2000s.
yeah, so like Jedi mind tricks ish maybe. Not exactly Jedi mind tricks,
But I get what you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also the like 90s style boom bap sounds. And I enjoyed that they were able to make it sound cohesive and sound like their sound. It was their sound, and I think that says a lot. And I mean, I think it's probably because they do the production as well as the actual songwriting themselves.
I think that's one of the hardest things in music collectives as well is and why you only have kind of the rare standouts when we talk about like Brockhampton getting popular and stuff that rise to any kind of popularity, Odd Future, etc.
Yeah.
Because cohesiveness is absolutely an issue, especially when you have a bunch of people trying to collaborate, sometimes just over the internet and different things and mesh together different styles. And do you have people who want to be apart consistently, so you can have producers who mesh with each other, so you can have vocalists that write hooks of equal caliber, so you don't have one track that's extremely weak on a refrain and then another one's very catchy. And so yeah, that was cool to see. I actually, speaking of hooks, one thing I wanted to note about this project, that was one of my kind of a standout part for me, was the hooks on this, and also coming from an even deeper appreciation of it, because when I started making music, it's really hard to write good choruses.
Yeah.
A lot of times you have to hit this balance between something that ties in correctly with the theme of the song and that it also is catchy in a melodic way. And it can be easy to go too far one way or the other, where you're so focused on the hook that it almost doesn't. You could have these like conscious, really nice or intricate verses, and the hook is almost kind of overly simplistic in what it's saying or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that, or you could go the other way, where you're trying so hard to continue telling a story in a hook that you don't write something that's that interesting to listen to or that people want to hear again. And I thought they did a really good job of like hitting in between that with a lot of these. One thing I would say is I actually preferred, for example, I don't know who, like we talked about, who exactly is permanent member or in it and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a track, I'm trying to remember the name right now because I didn't note it down, but with the female vocalist later on in the project, one of the last songs. And I actually didn't like, I liked when, I shouldn't make an assumption basically based on gender, whether she's a part of it or not, but it felt, because of, it was a little bit more disjointed, where it felt like someone was brought in to sing a hook.
Yeah.
And I actually liked it better when some repeat vocalists were doing hooks on the earlier tracks, and it seemed like we talked about more of that kind of cohesive effort.
Yeah. Yeah, I did enjoy the, like, one of my favorite tracks were, basically, like, 3 tracks in a row.
Yeah.
Never in My Whole Life.
Yeah.
Featuring, Janelle Cherise, maybe. I don't know if you
Okay.
say, I don't know if you say Janelle. I don't know if
Yeah.
you say Cherise, but I'm gonna go with Janelle Cherise.
Okay.
And then Write Somebody. And
Right. Somebody that was a top track for me. That
Yeah.
hook is awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
It was a really good track, and also "So Tired" Part 2,
Mm-hmm.
featuring Gary B. Those were my 3 favorite
Gary
tracks. Gary B. Basically my 3 favorite tracks from,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 of them had features, and I just thought they were. It sounded very good, and it sounded intentional. It wasn't off-putting, like sort of like the guy that we reviewed in the first episode that had the female
The second
vocals.
wave album. Yeah, I
Exactly.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that was a feature that did not work.
Yeah, it didn't really hit on that
But
one.
these all sounded like they were like picked out and
Right.
chosen, and it was really good.
It's one thing to note as well, which maybe it's probably helped a lot when you're in a collective. You're gonna have a bigger network naturally, but it is hard to, I've run into this before, where you're kind of like, who do I know that can do this or sing it, and you can hit a problem where you kind of are in this middle ground between, let's say you really hear a female vocalist on a track.
Yeah.
Is it one of the 1 or 2 or 3 people you know, and so that's why you get them, or do you find the right voice that you're like, this is the perfect person for this track?
And it sounds like they've chosen someone that
Intentionally,
works.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that confuses me though is looking at their album, and the second to last song called "Survive."
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, the last song, "Crazy." It says Dukes featuring Black Lion. So is that not an original track, or?
I think it's an original track, but maybe under another artist. My guess is because the original one was 7 tracks, right?
Yeah.
And the deluxe edition was 8. So my guess was maybe this was, without knowing, maybe this was kind of like something they worked on with another artist and asked if they could include it in the release of the deluxe
yeah, because it
edition.
says produced by Jay David, so I guess that's someone else. So maybe it's this Dukes guy.
His song.
From
released, right?
It's his song, but Black Lion featured on it. Okay.
That could be.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my thought was.
Yeah,
when
that makes sense.
I heard it.
Yeah, I just saw it just now, and I was like, but then I get it.
Yeah, I went and added the Write Somebody to my Spotify library. I really like that song. It's one of those tracks as well which is kind of rare when you are listening to like indie. I mean, there's lots of talented people, but you're listening to very independent projects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those ones where you were like, this sounds like a song I could hear in whatever other playlist I would, or radio playlist, and it would make sense as far as the polish, the writing, and the catchiness and everything. So I thought that was really good. I had that one on repeat a couple of times, but there are other good tracks on it as well. I remember the first 2. The project opens strong, which is a smart move. I was really impressed with this. As far as something that I've liked what we've reviewed so far, and on the last episode, on episode 2, we had the Mary Hennessy, which was obviously someone very talented and stuff. I can say with a fair bit of certainty that of the 3 independent level small time projects we've reviewed so far, this is the one that I'm most likely to actually listen to tracks again from and add into my library, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would say that myself, because I like the Mary Hennessy album. It seems like it's more my type of vibe.
Exactly. I can see why you would say that. Yeah.
But at the same time, I just feel like this is a new level of like professionalism in an amateur artist or whatever, or like an indie artist.
This is like what you want to see from someone who says they're taking their career seriously at that point.
And I mean, you can tell that they are serious with their music, and I don't see that they would have any issues with growing, expanding their fan base and becoming like a...
So go listen to them. Black Lion, look them up. Because it's very interesting to cut. I mean, not like putting anyone on blast, but it's like, SoundCloud is quite small. Their SoundCloud. Their Facebook page is quite big.
Okay.
They have like three times as many likes on their Facebook page as me. They got like 15 or 1600 or something like that.
Okay.
But but when you have more people in a group, you can invite more people to like them. And the
Yeah.
Spotify it doesn't have a lot of monthly listeners yet, but I think it deserves it. I don't know. I'll add one to the play count now. But I definitely recommend if you like finding new hip hop, this is a good a solid place to start and find to listen to a new artist. I don't think you would have many qualms with it.
Absolutely. If you want to be one of the first people to enjoy an artist that could, or a group, a collective that could blow up, then start listening to them.
Yeah. Your number.
Yeah. So it's tough with these indie releases. Should we judge them solely on the content, or should we judge them as indie releases? So I would say that for me, it's if I'm just looking at it from my own perspective and what I like and what I would listen to and everything, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. But as an indie project, it's a strong 8, a strong 8 out of 10 for me. So I don't know. I am impressed with the level of what they've accomplished with their sound and how, and I feel like they deserve to blow up and be a lot more well known than they are today. So I'm gonna go with the 8. I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna go with the 8 out of 10, and just want to hear more stuff from them. Basically, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're up to next. So
I think I get part of the element of this too is like I said, just listening to so much of this type of music and people at the level, I get overjoyed when you find something that's actually that you feel has some real potential. Not, I'm gonna tell my friends it's decent potential, that kind of thing. But for this one, for me, everything they've done, the only elements I could even which is, it's so hard to keep everything super engaging, and there's only a very small handful of groups that can do it. So the only thing almost that I would change is a couple of verse and vocalists. Maybe you add a little more intrigue to or shake up a little more often. One of the things, if you listen to, and we've talked about a couple referencing Brockhampton in this, if you listen to groups like that, one of the things that you'll notice is it's actually quite rare for a vocalist to spit a 16-bar verse in a row on a track. Even 12, and sometimes even 8. Sometimes people are just in for 4 bars and they're doing their thing, and we're moving on. And that's not necessarily how you have to do it, but sometimes if you have a verse, especially hard when this project is a little more conscious on some of the tracks, and there's definitely something they want to say on a record, so you don't want to break people up too much. Yeah. And then it comes down to how cohesive are you as a collective, and that you introduce new vocalists more often while still telling the same story, and that takes a lot of effort. So sure, there's maybe some verses that maybe could be broken up a little bit, but everything else, like I said, the writing in general, the attentiveness to choruses, the production value, the variety of production where you have these different elements that all sound clean and are interesting. They don't get... One of the problems when people do boom bap a lot now is it can get boring. It can sound very much like YouTube boom bap type beat, and it goes on the same for too long. And even if you enjoy the aesthetic in general, it's too much of the same or a little different. And I thought they avoided that on this, which was really cool. Anyways, long story short, I'm comfortable, especially indie level they're at, giving this 8.5. Was where I went with. I could even go to a light 9 with a little bit of consideration toward the indie side of things, and knocking off a little, because the bottom line for me with this project was I was gonna say knocking off a little less for a couple of the very small things I didn't like than maybe I would for another artist, because the bottom line with this project, as we've already said a couple of times, is that it's absolutely on it's a level apart from a lot of indie hip hop artists that you hear, and that in and of itself gives it a lot of merit, a little bit more clout than you would put on other things.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if someone had shown me this and said that, yeah, this is one of the biggest groups in this sound today.
right.
Basically,
You just
because-
didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, right now it's not the most popular sound, the whole conscious
Right.
rap, or I mean, there's definitely still a niche for it. There's still
Yeah.
people.
And I don't want to
enjoy it.
pigeonhole them that way. Like they have a lot of like you said, the catchy
absolutely.
elements too. But I mean, they have that in there. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna say that they're only doing that because
Right.
it was a very mixtape or EP. Sorry.
Yeah.
But one thing that I didn't enjoy was the track that started out. I think it's one of my favorite tracks. I don't remember which one it is right now, but he started out with sort of like this, almost like Jamaican style singing, like reggae dancehall.
I don't
type.
remember I know what you're talking
And-
about.
and-
I know what you're talking about.
But it's just like the first couple of seconds of that
Right.
song, and then it just
yeah, it was a bit
changes
of a
into-
weird hit
Yeah.
going into.
Exactly. That was one of the like few parts that I didn't enjoy, but it's such a small part, and it didn't drag down the score for
Right.
me. It was just like one of those.
Off
Okay, that
moments
was
for.
yeah. That was like okay, that was
Tried
an-
something
It was
and-
an interesting choice, but
Yeah.
it did not work out 100%.
Ah.
But still, I think if they did the same thing but just a bit different, like
Yeah.
it could work. So I'm not saying stop doing that. I mean, if it works for you and if you continue working on it, it's gonna be great.
Yeah. So
that's
in
it.
summary, Black Lion, free association, hit me up for a guest verse.
For sure.
But no, I really enjoyed this project. I think they did a good job.
They did. One thing I want to ask the viewers
Yeah.
or the listeners.
Hmm? Listen up.
Do you want us to choose albums that you think that we're gonna like, or should we just choose an album and see? Because I feel like a lot of the albums that we have reviewed have given them very generous scores. Like
Right.
the
I mean,
only album that we have like.
I don't know how much I want to recommend shit music, or not recommend,
No,
but like
no.
spend time like telling them like, by the way, this was a 3. Like
I know.
dubstep fart sounds are not the new wave.
I mean, definitely.
Confirmed.
Like, I don't want this podcast to become a way for us to criticize new artists.
Right,
like,
right.
so definitely not with like the indie artists, but I'm talking.
Because I've got sent a lot of things, and I obviously purposely don't pick the ones where I'm like, no, they're not. There.
No, because I
Yeah.
mean, just sitting here for half an hour and be like, you suck.
Yeah.
Your beats suck ass, and
Put down the Fisher Price toy microphone, and yeah, you know.
you should start working at Walmart. You're probably better suited for that
Oh, man.
position. I mean, that's not the way I want to do this
Right.
podcast. But
Yeah.
I'm talking more like when people. I mean, some rappers or some musicians that people look up to are shit. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's no denying it. And I want to be like, if a release like that shows up
Right.
and you're like laughing at how bad it is, do you want to watch us review it and like just completely just obliterate it with a terrible score? Do you want to hear things
I
that
wanna
we
do-
like that's
What I feel like is that's a good. I don't know. We can decide if we want to do like some almost like a grab bag thing every once in a while or something. But also, I think a good space to do that is for the major releases as well.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Kind of like with the Action Bronson one, where we just took something that was fairly big and coming out recently, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
With a smaller artist, there's such an abundance of people and talented people posting their things and trying to get some ears on it that there's no reason not to like boost up someone that we actually think is
good
doing well.
and worthy of the
Right.
like the exposure. Absolutely.
Worthy
So
of all the exposure. We passed 100 listens on that first episode. Let's
Woo!
go.
damn,
That's right.
100 listeners.
Fire.
That's more than 5.
It's so much more than 5.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'd have to get a graphing calculator to like confirm the ratio, but it's more than 5.
But last time I checked, 100 was a bit more than 5.
Greater than 5.
Yeah.
Anything else before we close out?
Yes. We should talk about this.
About
This.
what? Oh, the wine.
The wine.
Yeah, sorry we didn't introduce what's the wine we got. Sebastian's. So here's the thing, right? I know I got some social media savvy. I got some marketing background. I know what I want to do for the podcast. But this man right here a maverick in discovering music. You can tell from when we like talk about a lot of, you can reference a lot of other artists, and I knew you would be good at that. But then he comes in with this extra bonus of bringing along a bottle of wine each week.
Yes.
And that really sealed the deal for me as far as what I'm looking for in a co-host. So what have we got?
So today we've got South African red wine.
I'm going to show them the label here.
Yeah, it's called Scattered Earth. And I've had a glass of it, and I can tell it's definitely wine. Take that from someone who knows his wine.
This is a red?
This is a red wine. Not sure if I should go with any other type of wine. So far we only had red wine, so I've been trying to stick with that. But do you feel like we should?
We should do some whites at some point.
Or maybe some rice wine, some Japanese style, some sake and
Absolutely
some...
goddamn not. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm just joking.
No, but anyway, it's
Bush. This is interesting though. Bush vine. Sinsalt. I don't know that what that grape is. I mean,
Bush vine Sinsalt. No, I actually looked at a lot of labels from the
Yeah.
South African.
South African wines are very like you have a lot of like Syrah and stuff, and
Yeah,
which I do
but
enjoy.
they also had a lot of what seems to be like hybrid grapes, like because I don't even recognize the actual names of the. Because like you said, Bush vine Sinsalt. I don't know. Some French bullshit.
We got on the live stream. Try a Cabernet. I'm gonna guess that's a Sauv, a Cab Sauv. Yeah, okay, he corrected it. It's the spelling now. Yeah, a Cab Sauv mixed with Sangiovese and Merlot. I don't know what Govese is. Gove. But anyways, I don't know that one. I know some of these words. But
So should we? So is it a wine that's supposed to have all like a
I'm guessing
combination of all the three?
a pre-mid
grapes?
blend. I'm guessing we don't pour two bottles together.
No, because I feel like that could end up really gross. But I have to say, this was actually good though.
Yeah, I like this one.
I did not enjoy the wine that we had last podcast.
Which is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Apothic Red,
I
which is
didn't-
California wine.
Oh, exactly. I did not like that, but I know for a fact that I love South African red wines.
Yeah.
And I really like white wine from New Zealand and Australia. I think so. I'm gonna pour me some more.
It's all about that Southern Hemisphere, bitches.
Do you want a refill?
Ah, yes, we. Fill me up, good sir.
Fill me up.
Top me off, good sir. Do you know getting topped off now? It's like a blowjob thing.
Oh, sloppy toppy.
No, well, it was sloppy toppy, of course, but like getting topped off. Which is so. It's tough because it's like a normal phrase. If you're like, yeah, top me off, like with a glass of wine, and now it's like asking for head. And it's 2018 it's 2019 as well. It's gonna be tough to navigate.
It's a tough year, but imagine when we're like old men and we're gonna try and navigate the sitting in a restaurant. Sir, can you top me off? And he's like, yeah, meet me in the back. Or
I can't, but we literally hire people for that. That's a service we offer in every restaurant now. What era are you from? That's what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna say yeet, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is yeet?" And then, we'll use our little phrases.
And they're like, "Oh, you're adorable. You're an adorable old man."
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like,
I'm not looking.
No, they're not. They're gonna be like, you're a creep. Look at me. I'm like 5'6". I forget in centimeters, but they're gonna be like, "Excuse me, you cute little goblin. Could you leave the establishment, please? Could you hobble on back to Gringotts?"
But what is preferable? Like when you're growing old. Like
I don't know.
Like
I don't know. I feel like a cute little old man is an okay thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, do you want people to like look down on you and be like, "Oh, let me help you here. Oh, you poor fellow," or whatever? Like when you're like I mean, I think I'd rather be like a decrepit old creep and be like, I'm still like in control of my mental faculties and being just a bit like.
Have you seen the Nick Swartzen stand-up where he's talking about basically the best of both worlds, like still being in control, but you pretend you're not because people forgive you for things?
No.
He's talking about he's like, oh, you can do everything, like you can do anything you want when you're old. He's like, you can. He's like, you can just like shit in a box and give it to your grandson, and when he opens it, you can just be like, I thought it was a choo-choo, and then like just laugh about it to yourself later on. Something like, I forget the exact line, but something like that. So maybe you outwardly appear to, oh, it's so sad, he's losing it, but
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that
maybe
is a
we should
tough
wrap
one.
up this discussion.
I think we should. It's not relevant to any of the topics that we had tonight, but I think it's
The sloppy topics.
sloppy topics.
Anyways, thank you everyone for joining in here. This has been the How to Art podcast. If you're not yet, at How to Art podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube, you can find us on How to Art podcast. Follow us around there. We will have, as I mentioned, a brief break over the holidays, but it won't be an uncharacteristically large gap because this episode won't come out till probably 20-something of December, and then we'll be back maybe the second week or so of January, second or third, with another episode. Episode 4. If you have music at How to Art, it's howtoartpodcast@gmail.com or any of the other social. You guys can contact us and send the music you're releasing. We already have a couple people that have sent things in, but we're always looking for more. So if you've got something you want highlighted, send it our way. Preferably a project. We want some meat to talk
exactly.
about.
So,
not just a single or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, I just want to say, depending on when you're viewing this, good morning, good day, good evening, good night, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays indeed. Peace. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Later.
Peace.
All right, I'm gonna save this. We'll keep the live stream on for.